heroism. It's the pursuit of two ideals, excellence and a higher purpose. This noble mission is not just found in Hollywood. It's a game changer for businesses devoted to it. Almost all business owners launch their company to make a difference in the world around them. Join us on the Heroic Experience as we talk with business owners, senior leaders, and established entrepreneurs so that you too can elevate your business to heroic success. Now, here's your host, John D. Hanson.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience. We are grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Digital signage, it's everywhere you look. You need to check out their website and find out how they can help your business communicate, engage, and connect with both your team members and your customers. Check out their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. It is a repeat privilege to have Joseph Michelli as our guest again here on the Heroic Experience. He is a repeat New York Times bestselling author, love his books, and a certified customer experience professional. Welcome back to the show, Joseph. We're so happy to have you back with us.
Hey, John, I'll try to get it right this time. Thanks for having me back.
Whatever. Well, it's always a thrill to talk with you because we share that same passion of customer experience. I know you've got thousands of stories, but what are two or three that jump off the page at you of companies you've gotten to work with and have just greatly appreciated, even learned from your experience with them?
So I work with a company out of Missouri called Veterans United, and they are the largest home loan provider for VA loans, and they are remarkable. They care about the veterans. So one of the things that they do is they really train their people to listen for the why behind the home purchase.
Yeah.
So that it's not just a mechanical transaction of getting you a loan to get in a house. But really, why are you moving? Why do you want this house? What's this about in the big picture of your life and your dreams? And they capture that information and share it with each other across their team, and they're constantly working to make that why a reality. And then they frequently are able to give appreciation gifts along the way that are very personalized and in keeping with the driver of the individual.
Yeah, and something as what has become as mundane as a mortgage. There are very few people that I would think, and you probably agree with this, Joseph, that are like thrilled, looking forward to the day when they can sign a stack of paperwork as probably as tall as their car, simply to buy a house that, they've done this I don't know how many times in their life, but to take that and get down to the why of something and then tie personalization to it. Now, somebody could be thinking, could be listening.
And work your rear end off to make it easy for that person to have it happen in their lives and help them get through the challenges that are involved, really as their coach and their support guide. So, yeah, I think that's the spirit. And there are all kinds of stories of, very simple things that they might send to somebody at the end of it all that really shows that they got them. They understood the key reason this whole thing happened.
Yes, the personalization tied to their why. Somebody could be listening. I'm going to play devil's advocate, which is a horrible thing, but I'm going to say business saying, well, we can't afford to do that. I'm guessing that it's just like Ritz-Carlton. It costs far less than companies think, and it in return, it engages and brings a stronger return than doing nothing at all. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I'd say with this customer, this client of mine, because what they literally do is sometimes they'll have competitions to say, how can we create the greatest wow for the least amount of money?
Wow,
okay. It isn't about trying to spend your way into the hearts of your customers. It's not a sustainable process. But what is possible is to get people to be creative and to think about what's and in the Ritz-Carlton, a lot of it is a bottle of water when you go running, right? It's not they see you coming back from a run and they hand you a cold bottle of water, or they have a map of running routes around the area. They see you dressed in running gear and they hand it to you on the way out, and you just go, wow, they get me.
Yeah.
And it isn't expensive. It's thoughtful. And the more thought, the less money, the better it is.
Yeah, the creative thoughtfulness. I'm going to coin that. I'm going to attribute it to you, of course, but creative thoughtfulness.
Sure you will.
Yeah. Creative thoughtfulness, that doesn't cost anything but time. And I think companies miss that. A Gallup poll showed that 67 people feel on average they're utilized about 67%. Well, no employee is going to tell you, when I'm at work, I'm really not 100% engaged. I feel like I could be doing more because they're going to get more. On the other hand, if you could tap into that creativity, those people that are the quietest are the ones observing everything. There's this wealth of underlaying creativity that companies haven't even tapped into. And if you pair it, genius, if you pair it with how can we do this in the least expensive way that will resonate in people's minds. Oh, boy, people's minds will just be going on that. What's another great story you can share with us, Joseph?
I just think what you just said is so important. We got to stay with it. It's a virtuous cycle, right? So you're talking about the need for employees to feel creative and to have the empowerment to be autonomous. That's definitely a win on the customer and employee side.
Right.
But it's a win for the customer too, because when your employees act that way, it is the actions that enable, in the case of one of these veterans, where the person was just listening to the fact that, this veteran's father had recently died, and the gift they gave them was a wind chime because they'd heard somewhere along the way that his father just loved to be out in the, in the wind against his face. And so every time that wind chime, now rings on the deck of that person's house that they acquired through their mortgage, that's when they remember their father's spirit. So I think it's simple. And it's extremely complex, but it's all about entrusting your people, empowering them, and encouraging them to be innovative on behalf of customer value.
Yes. Yeah. A good friend of mine who's in the CX space, Nick Glimsdahl, has his own podcast, Press One for Nick. He said, and I do attribute this because he said it on our show, actually. He said, 5-star customer experience, it's simple, but it's not easy. So the simplicity part is where you can unleash that creativity. It's all around you. Why it's not easy is because every company would be doing if it was. It takes intentionality and it takes effort, but it doesn't take the cost or the time that a lot of business leaders think. What's another great story, Joseph, of companies you've worked with?
And again, I'm sorry, I keep building on this, but I think the elegance is in keeping it simple and being able to execute it. So a lot of what, Ritz-Carlton will do or Veterans United will do is really create these processes that enable people to be creative. And sometimes it's as simple as just giving handwritten notes to your contact center staff so that they can write them when they have the moment, just to say thank you in a personal way and not rely on technologies or email, but just that human note. It is such an overlooked, powerful tool. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Well, we've got about a minute and a half left. Believe it or not, this first segment's flown. What's a quick story of another company that you were so impressed that you worked with, Joseph?
Yeah, so I have had the great fortune of working with Renewal by Andersen. They do windows and doors on behalf of renovation. And what is amazing to me about this company is that they spend a lot of time teaching their people that if someone buys or they don't buy, they continue to be someone who is a potential future buyer.
Right.
And you don't treat people who, after an hour sales pitch, don't want to purchase your item as if they were of no value to you, particularly on commissioned sales folks, right? Like, oh my God, I just invested an hour in my inventory here and I didn't get a sale. They really spend a lot of time helping people. And some of the most heartwarming stories are the people who say, look, I didn't buy the item, but they were so incredibly nice to me and I learned so much. And if I ever do, right? So I think that messaging to a lot of folks is that it's not about the sale, it's about the relationship. It's about treating the non-buyers or the yet-to-buy people with a level of dignity that they're not expecting.
Yeah, well said. My gosh. Okay, I've got a couple of notes we're going to come back to, especially in the third, maybe the second segment. When we come back from the break, we're going to hear Joseph. We got to hear his life story from birth to now. I'm going to take a deep dive into his professional journey from education through his experience of this world of the customer experience. You'll definitely want to hear this. So come back, join us after the break, where we get to hear that from Joseph Michelli.
Inspire, influence, and connect your audience with digital signage. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Whether you need digital menu boards for your quick service restaurant, digital displays for marketing in your retail stores, or wayfinding and unified communications for your schools, your corporations, or your healthcare facility, our customizable, affordable options and proven experience make us the only partner you'll need for your next digital signage project. Visit kaufmanmedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Would you buy a car from a dealer without a test drive first? For your business, a consulting partner is even more important. Accelerated Revenue is excited to announce the Take Us for a Test Drive event. Receive 2 exclusive workshops on customer experience and winning culture, a customized culture snapshot, and a leadership strategy session worth over $10,000, all in for just $2,500. Best of all, when you onboard our consulting team, we'll credit you the entire $2,500. Spots are limited, so visit our website today at accrev.com/test drive.
Check out John's worldwide selling book, Wow Your Customers, 7 Ways to World-Class Service on Amazon. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience, whether you're in the drive-thru, at the airport, at the art museum. Digital signage, it's everywhere. It's in the landscape all around us. You may not be aware of how much it's being used around you. Visit Kaufman Media's website so that you can learn more about how they can help you connect and engage both your team members and your customers. KaufmanMedia.com, that's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Happy to have Joseph Michelli as a return guest on the show. He's a repeat New York Times best-selling author. Any book you get of his, well worth your time. I recommend reading all of them, just like I did. And he's a certified customer experience professional. Happy to have you on the show, Joseph. This is my favorite segment. We get to dive into the stories of the people that get to be our guests. So I wanted to take a deeper look in your let's say, educational to work journey. So you go off to college pursuing what degree specifically?
Oh, I was pursuing I wanted to be a lawyer, so political science was probably my major that I was focused on.
Okay.
But I ended up getting a triple major in political science, psychology, and philosophy, all the P's except physics and PE. So, yeah.
So a triple major. Now, typically that would indicate that there's a good number of gray cells in between the ears. What do you think? Intelligence is often can be a handicap if you rely too much on what you think you know. And I remember this reflecting back on my life when I was younger. Is there something that infused a love for learning? Because I see that element in your consulting and in your speaking and your writing. What do you think infused that in your life, Joseph?
Well, I think either I was smarter, I just couldn't make my mind up. I think the latter is probably more in keeping. I was too stubborn to stop. So, the love for learning for me, I was raised in a small town, and my parents didn't go to college, so it was an opportunity for me to start experiencing the world outside of my small town. My parents were really good about that, and the more I saw outside of the boundaries of my town, the more I wanted to know. And we had an Encyclopedia Britannica. We didn't have the internet, but we certainly, I lived in that thing trying to understand what the world was like. And I think that just, the more I learned, the more excited I got about what I didn't know. And I think that's the beauty of it all. It's not what we know when we start. It's kind of how much we know at the end, right? So let's keep piling it on. Yeah,
John Maxwell said quite well that there's a curiosity gap for people who love to learn. What's so ironic about it is that people who love to learn, as they keep learning, they realize that the canyon just gets wider and wider. It's the Grand Canyon you'll never be able to cross. And that's a great thing. But then you encounter people that, when I was younger, that think they know everything, and they think there is no canyon. There is no gap. There is no curiosity. And that reveals itself by the fact that they don't ask questions, or the questions they ask are to confirm what they think. And I am totally quoting myself at 21 years old. Like, I've arrived, I got it all figured out. The questions I'm going to ask are just to make sure I've got it right. I didn't have that curiosity gap. And then I don't remember when it shifted, but I remember that I've always loved to read. And I think in my mid-20s, I started reading people like John Maxwell and others. Were there any authors you enjoyed reading that maybe implanted this bug of you wanting to write your own books?
Well, there's no doubt John Maxwell would be one that I would list, because when he read one of my books and did a review on one of my books, and I was crying because, this is a guy I'd read my whole life, and suddenly to think that he spent like a moment inside the pages of a book that I would have written, that was way more than I could handle. But, I think I was really into people outside of the business realm, so it would be people like Will Durant and, the history of civilization, and it'd be like a 10-volume series starting at pre-civilization and early civilization and the Renaissance and medieval and all that. And so for me, I just realized this whole thing that we're doing now is on the shoulders of giants, as Isaac Newton would say. And And so I just wanted to understand all that had happened that gave me the path to be able to do what I get to do and hopefully leave something in a John Maxwellian sort of legacy spirit, leave something behind that enables the next generation to do something good. And that prompted the writing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The history, the love of history, having a degree in both history and business, I think has served me well because those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. But there's patterns within history and there's patterns within business. And I think that connecting the stories that are within history along with the patterns that are in business can be a very potent combination. And obviously a love for learning. You mentioned that I wouldn't say shift, but the opening into the world of customer experience, it started with fish, of all things. Do I have that right? And if so, what kicked that off?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I was working as a clinical psychologist. I worked in organizational psychology over my career. Most of my clinical work was around systems. What enables a system to change, not an individual, but a couple or a family system or an organizational system. So, but Pike Place Fish was really the big launch pad for me. Johnny Yokoyama is the owner of the world famous Pike Place Fish Market. He entrusted me to work with him on a brand that was, as I like to call it, floundering. And the fish market really turned around, and it was an amazing success story. And with it came the opportunity to tell the story authentically. It had been told by Ken Blanchard and his team in the book Fish, but we got to tell the story authentically from Johnny's vantage point, what it was like to really create the make your day, have fun sort of philosophy that became the fish philosophy.
Yeah, fun at work. I tell you, what dates was that when you were working with the fish market?
Oh, come on. How much do I weigh? Which child do I like? I'm not coming back on this show again. I don't care. I really can't tell you. It was a long time ago. I was in graduate school in the late 80s, I guess.
The reason I asked that, and I asked it for a specific question, is that the 80s was the greed is good. Fun at work? Are you kidding me? It's about profits, about making money. And that had to be so unique to come across this concept, Joseph, of fun at work. And while it's not just messing around in the back break room, you're actually enjoying your work, and then that has an impact not on only employee experience and customer experience, but profitability as well. Did any dots connect when you saw that you could have fun at the workplace and it be memorable and it be profitable at the same time?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. We didn't have the light bulb moment that said this was about having fun. We were really about being purposeful. We were about making a difference. We were about creating a world famous difference through the Pike Place Fish Market, being fully present, and we believed that when we were on purpose, it was fun. It just was fun. It wasn't work anymore when we were on purpose. Now, Ken Blanchard had the foresight to actually call it play, which is the word he used, and then they lots of organizations created play committees, and what you'd find is if they didn't have purpose, you could get on a play committee. That'd be like the worst assignment you could get in a company that was off purpose, right? Like, please don't put me on the fun committee. They're going to chew me up. So I think we really were trying to go back to the source material when we wrote our book, because it wasn't the purpose of business wasn't to have fun, but if you had purpose in business, you had fun.
Yeah, what Jim Collins calls the genius of and, right? Purpose and fun.
Yes.
But purpose is kind of the substance that, fun is like eating cotton candy. Boy, it is fun to eat, but there's just not much there. So if you're living off of cotton candy, it's just not going to do it. You've got to have something else of substance too, so you can have both. We've got 30 seconds left. What has been...
Tony Shea, who I worked with, was a king of fun. But he used to point out that the opposite of work is play, and that should not be. We should have work and play.
Yes, both the productivity and the play. Totally. Yeah. Well, if you enjoy listening to this podcast, The Heroic Experience, we are here to elevate your business to heroic success with guests like Joseph Michelli. You can hear us on Spotify, Podbean, on our YouTube channel, Accelerated Revenue, on Google Podcasts, on Amazon Music. Wherever you listen, please share this with your friends and colleagues and join us back after the break.
Did you know that 70% of U.S. residents 12 and older recall seeing digital signage in the past week? Digital signage provides a 35% reduction in perceived wait time with a 30% increase in a customer's in-store browsing time. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Christina said,
"We love our digital signage. The software is easy to use and we can publish content in minutes. It allows for every department to be seen and have a voice."
Visit KaufmanMedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Attention event planners. Is your company or association planning a conference, seminar, or staff retreat? Are you looking for fresh ideas on high-demand topics like customer experience, leadership, empathy, customer service, earning and keeping trust, and more? Then you need to book John D. Hansen as your next speaker. Brooke said,
"Great presentation. John's concepts help shift my thinking. A good fit for my life right now."
read more testimonials, discover John's full list of speaking topics, check out pricing and more on our website, accrev.com/keynote.
Would you like to be a guest on the Heroic Experience? Contact us at john.hansen@accrev.com. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience, where we are here to elevate your business to heroic success. We are grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Check out their digital signage solutions and far more on their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Happy to have Joseph Michelli, a repeat New York Times best-selling author and a certified customer experience professional, as our guest today. Word has it, Joseph, that you have a new book out. What is its title and what is it about?
To put a book out. I have been blessed to put a book out on the backside of the pandemic, and it really was a journey in talking to my clients about how they were trying to lead through the pandemic and how they tried to position their companies to come out stronger than they went in. And so my clients were kind enough to introduce me to their friends, and before you know it, 150 global leaders later, we had a book with their insights on how to manage and lead through what I think is probably one of the greatest challenges of our generation.
Yeah. And the name of the book?
It's called Stronger Through Adversity, strangely enough.
150 global leaders. So in those conversations, which had to be, some were probably short, some were probably long, it had to be a combination of so amazing across the globe. But what were some common elements, some common threads that you saw, no matter where they were in the world, Joseph, that you learned from what they shared with you?
Yeah, I think that's a great point about wherever they were. I mean, we were talking to senior leaders at Starbucks and, the CEO of Target and Verizon and, presidents of Microsoft and Google. And so, it was definitely a diverse group of people. The lessons really started with the fact that leaders often overinterpreted Simon Sinek's, book title that leaders eat last. And I think sometimes they didn't eat it all. And so you saw people who weren't nourishing themselves. They weren't leading themselves first before they tried to lead their teams or their organizations. So there was a lot of that. We saw, a humbling force where people started to appreciate that they didn't know it all and that they couldn't know it all, and that maybe John Donne was right. No man is an island unto themselves, right? So they started to see the need to reach out to peers, competitors, people who led outside of their space. And they looked for solutions beyond their own borders, kind of opened themselves up a little bit in that way. There was so many other about, transparent leadership and admitting mistakes. And the book is, like some, 22 chapters worth of different lessons that are called together from all those leaders. Wow.
So I heard something in what you shared. Often people that are in leadership, a senior executive C-suite leadership, unfortunately, and I disagree with this, unfortunately are painted with a brush that they are overcompensated. But I don't think people have been in the shoes of 24/7, 365 with 90-day expectations from a board can be easily replaced by somebody else. That the expectations, the standards, the level of responsibility. Now you're talking about a global pandemic on top of all that. That's a tremendous amount of responsibility. What do you see with that?
The president of Microsoft and the challenge that he was facing, this particular president who was responsible for the Teams product, the challenge that he was facing to scale up a product that was never intended to go that far that fast, right? So there's an incredible amount of pressure. And then flip that around and go to, Stephanie Linnartz, who's a president at Marriott, and she's trying to close as many properties as possible while maintaining some degree of sanity for all these people whose lives are going to be displaced in a shutdown across the globe, right? Like we're not just talking in your neighborhood, but in all kinds of different jurisdictions with all the regulations there.
What did you learn that they shared with you? Because this show is for business leaders, so you got executives, but we also have business owners and entrepreneurs on the smaller scale of things. Could be a handful of people, but the rules still apply to them, where they still have those kinds of pressures. They still have those responsibilities. What are the things that translated, no matter what size of organization, for people in leadership?
Yeah, I think we saw that compassion, the rise of compassionate leadership was there. I mean, we often lose sight of how important our people are. Social commerce is one where we typically think we give a job to somebody and it's a good thing. And this is the first time in a long time the social contract put people at risk if they came in and did the job on your behalf to the point of death. And so, it lingers as a safety issue in some companies, but it was omnipresent. So I think what we saw was people trying to understand, I really need to think through the lens of my employee in order to make sure that they're there to take care of my customer. And so the raging debate about which is more important, your employee or your customer, seemed to definitely tilt toward, I better take care of the person in front of me right now so they can take care of the person in front of them in a minute or an hour later. So I think that we really do need to take into consideration the wants, needs, and desires of the people we serve. We still need to expect them to be of service. We need to assert the needs of the business. I'm not trying to imply that you coddle employees, but I do think that we needed to factor in the human elements of performance, and we saw a lot more of that compassion demonstrated. And I just hope we don't lose that as we move forward. These are human beings serving other human beings in our business, and we need to treat them as such.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard it said, and I have the personal experience of working through the process, the creative process of writing a book, that the one who writes the book is the one who learns the most. What was your strongest takeaway personally, Joseph, when you wrote Stronger Through Adversity?
So I had never really looked at the world this way, but it's about horse herds. A wild horse herd has an alpha stallion in the back and an alpha mare in the front, and a bunch of horses that shape the herd in the middle. They all have different kind of leadership functions within a horse herd. Well, when I talked to leaders during this time, I really heard them saying I may have been the kind of leader who likes to be in the front, or the leader who likes to be in the back or in the middle, but I had to be everything in different situational contexts here. So, if I preferred to give them the vision and say, follow me, we're taking that hill, the alpha mare role, I needed to not do that sometimes. And there were times I just needed to step back, let my team run, say nothing until the end of the meeting, and then remove any barriers that got in their way. And other times I needed to dive right in and be willing to take the same risks that I asked them to take, or else I wasn't leading. So for me, the big takeaway was, what is my preferred leadership style? When is it effective? When do I need to reconsider it based on situational need? And how do I get comfortable being uncomfortable?
Wow. Yeah, those are some big ones, aren't they? And the idea of leadership, it's so dynamic and so fluid and so fast-moving, and now it's global. The responsibilities, whether you're in a small business, medium-sized, or a large enterprise organization, the larger they are, the more they're likely to reach overseas. But that what your products or services, who they can touch nowadays, is so large. One aspect that I wanted to ask about was self-care. You mentioned about leaders, all the stresses and the responsibility. Did you see an element of a growing awakening to the fact that they needed to be taking care of themselves so that they could invest into others? Did that come out of the pandemic?
Yeah, I heard from a lot of them, and then early on they just thought it was going to be a big old sprint and that they needed to, go full out, and they started to see that they had to pace themselves. But one of my favorite stories is from a lady named Stacy Salvi. She was a president of Fitbit, and she said, so head down, looking at how we can work with Stanford Medical Center to use our devices for tracking exposure. I'm so into the importance of what I was doing that I never got out of my chair. And here I am in a company that encourages mobility. And it was my Fitbit that I required to tell me, idiot, stand up, walk, move, breathe, right? You can't continue to live unless you breathe and move. And I think a lot of leaders lost that for a while and probably increasingly understand that you do have to put your mask on first.
Wow. Always a privilege to talk with you. Stronger Through Adversity is Joseph Michelli's latest book. If you want to learn more about what he does specifically, visit josephmichelli.com. All kinds of great information there. I want to thank you again for being our guest, Joseph, and I look forward to having you on when your next book comes out, because I'm sure there'll be another one.
Yeah, well, give me a minute. I got to take care of myself, too. Thanks,
We'll
John.
see you on the next show.
This has been the Heroic Experience. To learn how your business can be profitable and heroic, visit accrev.com. For access to free weekly content, subscribe to the Accelerated Revenue YouTube channel and follow John D. Hanson on LinkedIn. To listen to archived shows, find them on the Accelerated Revenue website under the Resources tab, accrev.com.